Hi everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today. We are going to be going over Web Intelligence reports. Our presenter, Neil Dave, will be running the demonstration. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to use the right-hand panel under questions or chat. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Neil and let him get started.
Thanks, Trent. So the goal of today's meeting is to talk about web intelligence. And if some of you were in my previous webinars, we talked a little bit about universe design. And what the universe design is made to do is to connect a data source or your database to a universe in order for your universe developers to create tables and or actually a schema that would have their tables and some joins created, and then also build objects within Designer to where your end users can build reports off of that. Well, that's where today's meeting takes off from here. So from those classes and objects that are created, we can build reports off of that data that's built on the universe. So you know, what the database or the universe was made to do is act as a metadata layer in order you to report off your data. So that's where web intelligence comes into play here. As you guys can see my screen, what I've done is I've logged into Web Intelligence Rich Client. There are two ways to create web intelligence reports. One is through Rich Client, which you can see right here, and the other one is through a web address, which would be your BI Launchpad. That's a website that you would log into. This is our local server, or our server that we can log into, and then this is the actual address itself. So like I said, there's two ways you can go and create web intelligence reports. One will be through this website, or the other one would be through Rich Client. But for purposes for today, I'm going to create the reports in Rich Client. Okay, so from back to the screen, what I need to do in order to create a new web intelligence report is just click on this button right here, or this icon, and then it's asking me to create a web intelligence source. Well, in this case, we're going to use a universe. So one of the differences between Rich Client and the web portion of this is the fact that a Rich Client allows you to create web intelligence reports off of different data sources. It could be an Excel data source, text files, so on and so forth. So in this case, we're going to select the universe. So it's going to ask me to log in. And once I log in, it's going to provide me a list of universes that have already been created, and I can select those. This list of universes are the ones that I have access to. So you can always customize access rights to make sure that only certain users can view certain universes and report off of those. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a report off the eFashion universe. So once I select this, what's going to come up now is the Edit Report panel. And this looks, what this is supposed to do is it allows me to build my query in here. And so what I'm going to talk a little bit about the screen, what we've got going on here before we actually create a report. On the left side here is the, you've got your classes. These are classified as classes. A time period class right here, store class, product, promotions, and measures. So what the class is it acts as an organizer for all the objects that are within that specific class. Now, for some of you that created universes, you'll note that that's where the classes are created. They're created within the Information Design Tool or Designer. So if I expand this class out, the time period class, you'll notice all these different objects. Again, these objects were created within Designer. And so in this case, we have a year object, a quarter object, month, week, and holiday. These blue icons next to those are denoted as dimensions, or known as dimensions. So what a dimension is just an object that you can report off. This would be returning year number, quarter number, month, week, maybe a street address, something along those lines. So the other object that we can talk about here is if I hit this expand the measures class, you will see one called, you'll see sales revenue, quantity sold, margin, and discount. These are called measures. Measures are any sort of object that can be calculated. For example, like a min or max is a measure object. A sum object would be one. In this case, like any sort of object that can be calculated, and through like a sum and addition subtraction would be your measure. And that's where this comes into play here, is that these measures are quantity sold or sales revenue, for example. Now, if I go back into the time period class, and if I expand year, there will be an icon here called physical period. This is called a detail. A detail just gives you more information regarding a specific object. So for this case, if I created a year object, well, specifically underneath that, I want to know the physical period of that. And so it just gives me more information about or describes the dimension object that's listed here. And one of the last types of objects that are out there are called predefined filters. Now, this is important whenever you're wanting to filter in the query panel. Now, one of the things as a best practice that we recommend is if you can perform all your filters on the query side, it makes your report run a lot faster and performance improves big time. So that's why we have these predefined filters in here. And again, these predefined filters are built on the universe level. All right? So that's a little bit about what's going on in here. And within these specific classes, that's where users are going to be able to pick their objects by simply double-clicking on it. What that does is when you double-click on it, it produces it here in the results object pan area. I can also drag and drop the object as well. So in this case, I'm going to bring over state and city. And so let's go and bring over a measure. I'm going to bring over sales revenue. And then, so based off of this, I've got 3 objects in here that are, these are my result set. So I want it to look off of this. The second pan right here is called a query filter. Now, for example, I talked a little bit about predefined filters. If I want to check my time period, if I want to say, okay, let's look at last year only, once I double-click on that, it automatically places it in here. The reason why it automatically puts it in the query filter is because this is a where clause. For some of you that are familiar with SQL, what this is doing is that the result object is acting as a select statement, and the query filter is acting as your where statement. And one way you can check that is if you want to click right up here at the top, there's a view script. And once you click on that, it provides you the SQL statement for you. And so I can look at here and see what type of SQL statement have I got in here. And then it also provides you the joins from those tables that I'm selecting from. Okay? And that becomes very important whenever you if you do run across like data issues, you can definitely copy that SQL into a database tool and then troubleshoot from there. Okay, so that's a little bit about this area. The data preview area, which is kind of nice, it's new for 4.0, is it provides me the data preview of what I'm looking at based off of these objects. So once you can see here, state, city, and sales revenue, it'll tell me what's being returned. And if I want to execute that data or execute this, I can do that. Another thing, if we look up here to the top, we talked a little about the SQL statement. Here you have query properties. If I click on that, it tells me the name of the query. It tells me the name of the universe that it's running again. One of the nice things that you can limit restrictions on for users, or if you wanted to, you can limit the number of max rows and retrieval time. So for example, if you're building a query that may take some time to run and you're not sure if it'll bog down the universe or bog down the database, what you could do is say that, okay, I want to set the max row retrieve to 1,000 rows, and then once the 1,000 rows hit, when the report refreshes, once that hits, it'll stop executing the data, and then you'll just have your 1,000 rows, which is a very nice tool whenever, again, if you're building queries or you're building ad hoc queries and you're not sure how they're going to interact, how each table can interact with each other, or how the objects, are going to interact with each other. That's kind of a nice feature. Let me go back to that. One of the other nice things is if you build multiple prompts in here, you can determine your prompt order. So let me talk a little bit about that. In here, under the query filters, I can also build prompts in here. So if I wanted to select a state, in here I can just say, okay, this is another query filter. If I say, okay, bring back all the states that are from California, I can bring that over, Colorado. And so these are automatically going to determine the types of the 2 states that I want to return. So what this is, again, is a query filter that I can select, say that, okay, bring back all the, and InList does, it returns all the states that I want to show, equal to, greater than, or equal to. You've got all these different types of operators that you can select from. The greater than or equal to would come in this example, would come more handy if I did like a quantity sold to say, okay, greater than or equal to, saying, let's say like 200 or something. That would come in handy here. Okay. So there are all these different types of operators in here. If I wanted to create a prompt that says, if I click on this button right here that says enter, I can write a prompt on here that says enter state. Okay. And then in here, I can click on this prompt properties. And what that does is it allows me to look at, have some prompt properties in here. One of the ones I want to, this section right here is important because in the prompt properties, I can prompt with a list of values to return, whenever we execute this, to return a list of values that the user can select. You can also make this optional prompts, which means that if the user does not select anything in that prompt, it just automatically returns, it ignores the prompt and returns all the data associated with it. So again, if I select that optional prompt, which I did here, when I run the query, what you're going to see here is it's asking me to enter a state. So I'm going to type in a value, or I'm sorry, I'm going to hit the refresh here, and I'm going to bring California, Colorado over again, and I can execute the query. All right. Before I execute the query, a couple other things I want to talk about here are adding combined query. This is a union. If you want to create a union or intersection, you can do that in here. These other buttons here are to add and hide these actual pans or these sections within your report panel. The last one here is called adding a query. So if you are building multiple queries for your report, you can do that by building additional queries in here. So that's how that would work for if you want to build multiple queries. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and execute the query. Again, this is an optional prompt. I'm going to say, okay, let's just bring back all the states, all the data for all the states. And so what it's doing is refreshing. All right, so here is the report panel itself. And so in here, there's a lot of different things you can do in here. You can, here's where I can actually massage the data or change it if I want to. This is definitely different than if you've looked at the older versions of BusinessObjects. There's a lot more going on in here. So if I look in this properties, actually if I go into properties, I can see all the different types of menu options I've got in here. In here under report element, if I look at this tab, it tells me what type of table. If I want to keep this as a vertical table, I can do that. If I want to add a blank cell under this tab, section, so on and so forth. Now, if I want to change it to a chart, which I'm going to do in this case, I'm going to highlight the table, and I want to make this into a pie chart. All right, so if I select the pie chart, all right, I'm going to place that in here, and then I'm going to bring over city. I'm going to bring over state. And sales revenue. All right. So what that did is it created my pie chart for me. All right. Now, if I wanted, there's another way around that. If I wanted to just turn this into a pie chart, I can do that by simply right-clicking on it and then selecting Turn To, and then let's make that into a pie chart again. And that's where my pie chart comes into play. Now, if I wanted to edit that pie chart, I can just again right-click on it, Format Chart. And then let's put our data information into here. So let's say, okay, let's put in our data values. So data label it. Let's place it on the outside. Everything else looks good in here. And here's my data options in here, right? So it tells me what's the percentage of state versus city. So that's how you can definitely massage your data. You can change it into a chart. You can represent it into different types of charts, excuse me. You can also change it into a crosstab if you wanted to. So that's where that section comes into play. the section here, if you want to insert a section, so you've got to, if you want to create breaks in here, I can do that by inserting a section. Placing that. And I'm going to say I want a section by city. So if I section by city, I have Austin, well, let's take out that. Take that out. Okay. So now I've got my sections of city, state, and then the sales revenue that's being returned. Okay. So if I'm going to remove that section, yeah, let's go and remove it. And then bring that back. Okay, so yeah, within this Report Elements tab, there's a lot of different things you can do in here. We don't have time to go through all of them, but some of the other important things in here, if you want to format a cell, you can do that by going to Font. Under this Format tab, you can make this bigger or smaller if you wanted to. There's different types of styles you can make. Alignment, if you want to change the alignment to center, you can do that in here. Let's see, data access. If you wanted to go back to your, say that you wanted to add more elements to your report, you could do that by going to the Data Access tab and in here and saying, okay, if I want to create a new query, I can do that in here. Or if I want to edit my existing one, I can just click on the Edit button and then add more objects in here if I needed to. All right. Let's say quarter. Let's run that. And then let's bring that over as well. And remember, once you bring over, once you go edit the query and you drag and drop the objects in here, what you have to do is you have to drag, once that object's already been executed or the data's been refreshed, you have to bring over the quarter object into the report. It does not recognize, it does not know where you want to place it, so that's why you have to physically drag and drop that object into here. Okay. One other thing we can talk about is if you want to create a new variable into your report, you can do that. So under the New Variable tab, you can just create a variable. Let's call that test. And then you would place your objects in here or place your formula definition in here on what you want to return. You can, these are all the different functions that are available to you within Web Intelligence. And one of the nice things it does is it gives you the definition on here of what it's supposed to do, and it gives you the syntax for it. So which is kind of, that's definitely a nice feature that you can take advantage of whenever you're trying to create formulas in here. And remember, formulas are only report specific. They're not global. So if you're creating a variable, make sure that you're creating that. It's going to be only used on your local report. Now, if you want this variable to be global for all users, then that needs to be created in the universe. I definitely get questions about that a lot. So make sure, and if you're creating a variable, remember it's only report specific. It's not going to be global unless you want it to be. And if in that, again, in that case, you want to put that in the universe. All right. So under analysis, if I want to create a filter, I can add filters in here to say, okay, well, just bring back in the report side, let's bring back only the city of Boston. And so I've got data for Boston in here. Okay. And if I wanted to remove that filter, I can just go there and remove it. There's rankings in here. There's different types of tracking. If you want to track your data, you can track your data in here to say that last time the report was, if there was a change made to the database and the data changed it in your report, it will track these changes and let you know that, okay, this object was, or this line, or this, excuse me, this row was added, and then it'll let you know what row was added to your report. All right, and so we have a lot of different options in here. If you wanted to adjust your margins or change the page, if you want to change it to like letterhead or legal, excuse me, whenever you want to print out the report, you can do that by changing the page size on here. One option, some of the options you do have is exporting these reports to Excel, CSV, or PDF. So with that in mind, you have your margins, you've got display. So whenever you're exporting a report to PDF or Excel, you can definitely change the margins around in order for you to make sure that those are correct. Now, if you want to create a second report, you can do that by under this report page. You've got a second report, and then you can have multiple tabs in here. Okay. And if you wanted to just look at the data providers on here, it tells you the data provider here tells you that the name of my query is query 1. It's only using the data source eFashion, and it tells me how many rows are being returned from my report. All right, and if you want to toggle back, you can go back to with data. And yeah, for the most part, that's how you would get around creating a web intelligence report. One of the nice features that do come within Business Objects is the input controls. So you can create a new input control to say that, okay, if I want to return state information, if I click on state here, then I can say, let's use all the values from the report. Let's say in here, California. Actually, I'm going to return all values. Okay, so let's say equal to all the states. Let's say Colorado. All right, let's say not working right now. Okay. Well, what that's is designed to do is it's supposed to act as like an input control where a user is allowed to change objects. They can toggle between back and forth to say that, okay, I just want to look at Austin data. I just want to look at Chicago data. As opposed to creating a filter that only returns that information, you can, it's ad hoc, or it's, it's dynamic to where you can add and the user can actually just select whichever option they want there. So that's pretty much it for creating a web intelligence report, from building a query and to actually changing the data itself. Trent, with that in mind, I hand it back to you.
All right, thank you, Neil. Let me get this back up, and we'll wrap up our webinar with showing you our normal mission statement. If you know where we're coming from as a business, we plan on partnering with you, not just necessarily being a contract kind of job, if you will. Also going to show you a little bit on our history. I put in a blurb about here at the bottom for our Instant Access BI. It's something we're really excited about. Basically, you can get up-to-the-date online support for your business intelligence. So if you've got a BI department, you have one person kind of running a lot of reports, that kind of thing, we can provide a service that will be there. You simply just go to a certain webinar website, and we'll pop on. We'll get on the phone with you. We'll get on a GoToMeeting like platform and take a look at your screen, and generally just guide you in the right direction. If not, flat out show you how to do it or do it for you. If you have any questions about this webinar or future webinars or anything of that nature, please feel free to contact us. We love to get input. And with that being said, thank you very much for joining today, and we will see you next Tuesday, or in 2 Tuesdays. We have a big webinar on, it's a dashboard feature. It's up on our website. That's September 12th, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you soon.